boxes into this one building for his mail order catalog company. The building has 4.2 million square feet of space. The Sears Tower has 4.8. This building, the Merchandise Mart here, it used to have its own zip code. It was 60654. Remember mail? That was fun. Lastly, the Merchandise Mart has 7 miles of hallways and corridors. Floors 1 and 2 are open to the public. I encourage you to go walk into the Merchandise Mart later. They did a $20 million renovation of the lobby and there's a bar in there that no one knows about called Marshall's Landing. Yeah. Photographers look to the forward, or everyone rather, but photographers get this shot of the main branch as we head upriver towards Lake Michigan. You can appreciate and see how accessible the river is here. Glance to the right. You'll see our brand spanking new Riverwalk. It's a 1.25 mile stretch of awesomeness, cost over $100 million. I encourage you to walk the entirety of the Riverwalk. Shopping, dining, drinking, giggling, boating, it can all be yours. The price is right. Now moving right along, friends, I want to show you something kind of neat, and I'll tell you quickly. Architecture is a conversation over time. All these buildings are linked, they're related, they're referencing each other. For example, here's the fun thing. On the right, you'll see the LaSalle Wacker building. You see that building screams Art Deco, designed by Halliburton and Root, built in the 20s. Look at the massive setbacks halfway up. Well, here's the fun thing. The neighbor was built in 2013. I call it the Ice Cube. It's one of the first buildings built that showcased to me we were shifting into this now contemporary era of architecture. See how this ribbon wraps up and kind of consumes the building as it goes? See how halfway up that ribbon became a party deck for those who lived there to kick it and be more awesome than myself? See how they built the party deck on the new tower at the exact same level as the setback on the neighbor? Oh, yeah. See how those two elements line up? And now you notice it, and it kind of jumps out at you, but it's seemingly innocuous. But yeah, that's the new building, right? Showing up in Chicago and being like, hey, you know, I'm going to reference this little guy next to me who's been there for about 8 decades. Pretty cool, neat thing. Glad we got to that with time. And then this one, I got to show you this, friends. Are you ready for this? All right. On the right-hand side, 55 West Wacker. What happened to you, bro? Who made you the way you are today? That stocky, heavy stone, that kind of coarse, bunker-esque look, that's what's known as brutalism. Brutalism, yeah. 55 West Wacker is a brutalist building, and it's not what you're thinking. It comes from the French, béton brut, which roughly translates to coarse stone. Folks, in the 1960s and 1970s, there was a lot of brutalism. Universities used it, your federal government used it. It's very inexpensive, it's easy to work with, and as you'll note, brutalism, it tends to induce your compliance. There's a building on Michigan Avenue you all should go walk by and walk into if you have the guts. It's called the Pendry Hotel. Act like you're staying there and walk in, go see it. We still call it the former Carbide and Carbon building. Look out there to the forward, friends, above the Morton Steakhouse sign. You'll see the actual real gold on top of the tower trickling down the green terracotta building. It's an Art Deco structure from 1929 that, yeah, features green terracotta, 24 karat gold. It even has black marble on the facade of it. Go see the Carbide and Carbon building from 1929. It's a historical landmark on Michigan Avenue. It was designed by Daniel Burnham's sons. Yeah, the Burnham brothers, as we call them. Daniel Jr., Herbert Burnham. It's a building they said broke all the rules. And if you're asking yourself, why would Chicagoans put gold on top of a skyscraper? We were just doing here in Chicago what had already been done in New York City. Perhaps you are familiar with the Radiator building in New York. Look up the Radiator building, you'll see it has gold on top. When you see images of the Radiator building, you'll get images in your mind of the Carbide and Carbon building here in Chicago. Excellent stuff. Again, called the Pendry Hotel. Do go check it out.
Go ahead. I'm above you.
Another one that you'll want to walk by, and you know, you're going to come down to the main branch here. I want you to walk along Upper Wacker Drive, the double-decker expressway here from the Daniel Burnham plan. You can see and appreciate how beautiful Upper Wacker Drive is here, and off the right-hand side, here comes the skinniest skyscraper in Chicago. As the sun retreats behind this structure, check it out right there. I call it the Gothic Rocket. White glazed terracotta, very fragile, very beautiful. Look at that Gothic revivalism. Used to stand there all by itself. The skinniest skyscraper in Chicago, dates back to 1928, designed by Herbert Riddle, the former Lincoln, former Mather Tower. And since we touched upon some outdoor art earlier, why not? We'll do some more. Here to the right, you'll see an already 3-year-old mural. It's massive, views the people sauntering by as scale. It's called The Radiance of Life, and it's a 100-year celebration of Art Deco. It's amazing. The bridge ahead of us was modeled after Alexander III's bridge in Paris, France. One of Chicago's nicknames is indeed Paris on the Prairie. This all comes from the plan of Chicago by Burnham. He was imagining himself in Paris when he was reimagining Chicago. This bridge was designed by Edward H. Bennett, very influential guy in our history. Michigan Avenue, friends, is the original shoreline of Lake Michigan. Everything out here north of us, south of us, east ahead of you is landfill or filled land. We renamed this bridge years ago the DuSable Bridge. It's named in honor, folks, of Chicago's first non-native resident who, guess what, lived here on the lakefront just to our left-hand side from 1773 to 1800. DuSable was half French, half African. He spoke a number of languages. He lived here as a fur trapper trader. As again, the first non-native resident. This area to our left is called Pioneer Plaza. Come down here, it's incredible. The building which sits where he lived is called the Tribune Tower. See the Tribune? You'll love this. The midsection looks like Art Deco, okay, appropriate for 1924 when it was built. See how the base and the cornice are French Gothic revivalist? Yeah, that French Gothic influence on top, beautiful, right? Like just splashed on top. The flying buttresses you see up there, those upside down L's, they're not supportive, they're purely decorative. Folks, the Tribune Tower was designed by Raymond Hood and John Mead Howells. That is an award-winning building, which is to say the design was entered into a competition held by the Tribune Company in 1922 when then owner Colonel Robert McCormick asked the world who can design the most beautiful building in the world for my downtown Chicago office. Over 260 entries came in for that competition from architects from 13 different nations. Raymond Hood, John Mead Howells, guys from New York City, they designed the Tribune. That's the winning design. All right, now let's have some fun with the architecture. Talked about how in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, they began to have a good time with the buildings. Here's one that you'll enjoy, left-hand side and up, the NBC 5 Tower, designed by a Chicagoan named Adrian Smith. You'll swear you're in Midtown Manhattan right now staring at 30 Rock. See how it looks like 30 Rock? See how it wants to be Art Deco, has the ribbon windows, the elegant setbacks, the verticality. Because it was built in the 1980s, though, you can't call it Art Deco. You gotta call it what it is. They call that Echo Deco. Echo Deco. Yeah, say that to your partner. Echo Deco, honey. It's like I told you.
Echo Deco. It's like I told you.
And then here's the kicker. You're gonna love this now. See halfway up on the NBC 5 Tower? The flying buttresses there? That is a tip of the hat to the buttresses you just saw there on the Tribune Tower. Architecture is a conversation over time. That was a quote from Robert A.M. Stern, an architect from New York City. Yeah. I always use that quote to showcase to guests how all this stuff is absolutely linked, related. It makes it more enriching. And then here's another fun one for you. Watch out. Yeah. The Swiss Hotel. It's a triangular-shaped building. You saw triangular-shaped units before by Harry Weiss. This is Harry Weiss yet again, the same guy who did the cottages that we saw on the North Branch, built in the 80s, the Swiss Hotel. The triangular shape, again, to him, was reminiscent of the sail of a sailboat. And folks, note that as we go by the Swiss Hotel here, it looks like the bow of a ship, the front end of a boat. Yeah. And you gotta love this too, right? This came after 30 years of modernism. So after 30 years of dark black boxes, this guy comes along, he's like, boom, triangle. Just hit him with it. And that brings us now to a lovely neighborhood here on the right. Come visit this neighborhood. It's called Lakeshore East. If you wander into Lakeshore East here, you'll be pleasantly surprised that there's massive parks and gardens in there. You wouldn't really know just looking at it from here. And then in Lakeshore East, come see the third tallest skyscraper in Chicago. Brand spanking new stuff, next generation, futuristic. Welcome, welcome to the St. Regis. Get these images now as those wispy clouds float by and the birds loft overhead. Look at that. Standing 1,198 feet in height, this thing's 101 stories tall, entirely made of concrete. Yeah, it's a concrete building sheathed in beautiful glass. Folks, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. There's 6 different shades of glazing on the glass. It accentuates the widening and thinning of the building. The St. Regis here was inspired by the naturally forming crystals that occur in things like fluorite and sapphire. We would all agree it looks like a bunch of hourglasses stacked on top of each other. Those hourglass shapes are what engineers call frustums. The building is a series of frustums made of concrete. There's 4 separate structures. See how they're offset from one another? Because they have that crease, that seam, that fold, you get these wiggly shadow lines. And the shadows that are casted upon this building, they shift and change depending on the time of year, where the sun is located, even during the time of day, right, as it kind of comes and goes. So with these new buildings, they're very playful with these shadow lines, as I come to call them. We're still kind of getting used to all this. The St. Regis was designed by a female architect. Her name is Jeannie Gang. Jeannie Gang is from Illinois. She went to U of I. She's won awards for her work, and she was recently tapped to do the multi-billion-dollar renovation of O'Hare Airport's International Terminal. Indeed. Folks, check out Lakeshore Drive. It's a beautiful double-decker bascule trunnion bridge, the 4th of 4 double-decker bridges. Lakeshore Drive, the bridge here, 1938. We call it the Roosevelt Memorial Bridge. Folks, the first vehicle to cross this bridge when it opened up in 1938 was then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's wheelchair. Yeah, FDR, Mr. Alphabet Soup himself. See the bridge houses? That's where bridge tenders used to work. They opened and closed these bascule trunnion bridges all day, every day for the cargo vessels that had the right of way. If those bridge houses kind of reminded you of Art Deco, you're on the right track. Later in life, when you're walking the river, check out the bridges. They're all different. The bridge houses all capture, folks, the style of architecture popular when the bridge was first built. So you'll see the limestone, the verticality, the things we associate with that style. Of course, Lakeshore Drive has that vibe. And my great-grandfather was a bridge tender. Yeah, my mom's side, my south side Italian side, they lived in the Archer Heights neighborhood, like 47th Street in Pulaski. My Papa Vito, great-grandfather, Vito Perino. He came from Bari, Italy. He worked in these bridge houses. A couple of years ago, my mom found and gave to me his badge. I have this beautiful tin badge that says Bridge Tender Special Police. Yeah, my mom gave it to me, not to Michael, not to Lynn.
Oh, sorry, bro.
Maybe do a boat tour, you'll get a badge. That's my little brother and my big sister, yeah. That's right, you guessed it, I'm the not-so-well-adjusted middle child. I need your attention, I need your approval, please laugh at my bad jokes. That's awesome. But it's a tangible piece of history, right? Working class people in America coming from around the world to build Chicago. It's great. Now my mom's mom, my grandma Betty, she was in the Coast Guard for 30 years. She had a boat. She taught us how to boat. Yikes. Here is on the right where the people of Chicago keep us safe, the Marine Safety Center, folks, home to the Coast Guard, Marine Police, Conservation Police, the Water Reclamation District is here. Chicago Fire Department has boats in the water. They just fired up the Christopher Wheatley, probably going for a pleasure cruise. There is no emergency that I know of. I would hear chatter about the house. We're all good. Everyone is welcome. Welcome to Chicago's lakefront. The temperature will dip as it's always cooler by the lake. Friends, we enjoy 28 miles of lakefront. We have 22 beaches. We have over 5,000 boat slips in Chicago spread across 13 harbors. You must engage in the lakefront like you must engage in the Chicago River. You can peek off the right-hand side or left-hand side and appreciate a Sunday morning in Chicago in the summer. Look at this. And off our left-hand side, make sure you go to Navy Pier. Walk to the end of it and back if you don't want to engage in all the things going on there. Don't think of it as a tourist trap. It's much more important than that. It's from the Daniel Burnham plan of 1909. You'll want to ride the Ferris wheel, okay? We find out if you don't. The Ferris wheel is a tribute to the first ever built Ferris wheel built for the World's Fair of 1893. There's a hotel on the pier called Sable, a wonderful rooftop bar called Offshore. You got shopping, dining, drinking, giggling, boating. Make sure you hang out at Navy Pier. And folks, really quickly off the right-hand side, that is the Chicago Harbor Lock. You can peek out there to the far door, see that they're open. Millions and millions of gallons of melted glacier water is dumping off the 5th biggest lake on the planet. Beautiful Lake Michigan. As it fills that lock, those boats will lift up 6 feet and they'll make their way out to the lake. The lock is the only way to go from lakeside to riverside and vice versa. And I'll take a second break, 1 minute off the mic. I want you all to take time to get these photographs here. Welcome to Chicago. Enjoy, please, here what is arguably one of the world's most beautiful skylines. Back on the mic in about 1 minute. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. We have one more big leg of our trip to go. Is everyone feeling good? Feeling great?
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the other super great picture. Lynn and I in high school when we got in trouble
Oh, yeah?
sneaking in. My friend Lynn, not Lynn.
Oh, okay.